Welcome everyone to today's podcast. And I have got a very interesting chap as my guest today. We met a few months ago at a wonderful company called Taurus Marketing, and they were celebrating their 30th year in business in Sydney. And it has the most spectacular view from their office. So we were all looking out across the view thinking this is magnificent. And like anything, and people know me well, I'll talk to anybody because it's all about a chat. And Michael and I started this conversation, and lo and behold, out of this room of probably 100 or more people, Michael and I both found that we're in the hospitality industry, and that's our passion. So as soon as we started talking, I thought I've got to have him on this podcast, not only to talk about his amazing journey in the hospitality and tourism industry, but also about what he's passionate about now. So let's start. Since retiring as the inaugural CEO of Accommodation Australia National, Michael has been supporting ReLove, a Sydney-based charity supporting the homeless, in particular those impacted by domestic violence. Michael had previously been head of Tourism Accommodation Australia, that's TAA, National and New South Wales, since May 2019, spearheading the sector's response to COVID, steering it through its darkest days in more than 100 years, and representing the accommodation sector in the halls of power in Canberra and Sydney, and of course, in the media. A former long-time general manager of 4- and 5-star hotels, Michael lived and breathed the industry and was committed to providing all members with the highest levels of service and representation. As CEO of TAA and interim CEO of the Accommodation Association of Australia since October 2022, the first person to hold both of those roles at the same time, Michael was pivotal in the amalgamation of Australia's two peak accommodation bodies, a merger he has described as a long-held dream come true. Now, as ambassador for ReLove, Michael is still connected to the accommodation sector, requesting hotels to donate their used furniture during refurbishment to this worthy cause. ReLove also supports the hotel's ESG programs, ensuring the reuse of furniture as opposed to going to landfill. Now, as you can imagine, the questions were bubbling in my mind when I asked Michael to be on the program. So we're going to touch a bit on his career, his journey, his passion for the industry, but also merging that passion with the industry with his new passion, which is ReLove. So welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, look, as I said, we struck up this conversation, and it was just that immediate spark of going, oh my goodness. And I was thinking to myself how one can be in one's industry and then, retire and go into all these different things and then find out how he can reach back into that industry to give back to more with this ReLove project. But let's look, your career in hospitality spans decades, Michael, a bit like myself, from managing luxury hotels to leading national accommodation bodies. What first drew you to the hotel industry, and what's kept you passionate about it all these years?
Well, look, I was going to say it was an interesting start to the industry. Funnily enough, I had just finished an apprenticeship as a diesel mechanic
Oh, right. Okay.
in Sydney. So I was fully qualified, and I thought I'm going to go on a holiday, and I went to Queenstown in New Zealand, and I went for a 3-week holiday. And after I'd been there for 10 days or so, I thought, gee, it's a fabulous town. And this was way back when Queenstown was a country town.
Right.
It didn't have international flights from Australia. It didn't have, yeah, most people came into Queenstown by bus in those days.
Right.
And so anyhow, I was in a pub, and someone said, "Are you enjoying Queenstown?" I said, "I love it. I love it. It's great. Why don't you stay?" And I went, "What would I do?" And they said, "Oh, we get you a job in a hotel tomorrow." And I said, "Oh, doing what?" "Oh, it's easy. Just wash a few dishes and pots." I said, "Oh, okay. Where would I live?" "Oh, we provide accommodation." I said, "Oh, all I got to do is cook for myself." No, 3 meals a day. I went, "Wow, this sounds fantastic." "Yeah, and if you stay, then you can be here for the ski season and etc." And I just thought it was an offer too good to refuse. So I rang my boss in Sydney and got a few expletives over the phone when I said I'm not coming back. And I started in the hotels. And the interesting thing, Michelle, that the irony of it is that today, you know, Queenstown people will be having the same discussions in pubs because we've still got shortages
We do.
in staff. We're still always looking for people to join us. And as you know, so that hasn't changed. And that was well, that's 45 years ago. So,
Gosh.
but I was going to say, so I started in the hotel, and I have to say, one of the things that I found was it was obviously the first job was very difficult. Being a kitchen hand was very difficult,
Mm.
and you worked really hard, and people were saying, "We've got to get you out of that kitchen. That's too hard." And I thought, "Is it?"
You're telling me.
Yeah, yeah, you're telling me. So next thing you know, I was asked to join the team in the concierge, and so I started in the concierge,
Mm.
and I'd never been in front of a customer before. Um, but look, I have to say, I just loved it. I just thought it
Mm.
was fantastic, and so I did that for a time, and then, funnily enough, the food and beverage manager say, "Can you work in the bar?" I said, "I've never worked in the bar." "Oh, we'll teach you." So great, okay. So then I'd work in the bar, and then if what shift are you on tomorrow? I'd say I'm on late shift. "Oh, could you do a breakfast shift in the restaurant?" I said, "I've never done a breakfast shift." They said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll teach you." So so all of a sudden, and look, I have to say, I do tell the young ones today, don't hesitate to say yes. Don't feel
Yes.
like you're being
Yes.
used. Feel
Yes.
like you're being trained, and
Yes. Yes.
because it all helps. So I did this for a number of years, and to the extent where then I had the opportunity to. I asked the question, could I work on reception? And interestingly, in those days, and this was early 80s, well, there was a whole policy. You had to be one, you had to be female.
Yeah.
Two, you had to be over 25. Could you imagine having that
Yeah.
today? So I didn't fit any of that.
Yeah.
And you think, well, you know, let's break the mold. And
Mm.
so, can you type? I said, no, but I can teach myself. So I did a self-taught typing course because, of course, it was typewriters. We didn't have computers, of course. So, and I suppose, so I'd been at the hotel about 3 years, and the general manager said to me, "Michael, what are you going to do? What are you actually doing? What are you doing for the rest of your life?" Sort of thing. I said, "Well, I'm going to have to go back to work eventually." And he said, "Well, what do you call what you're doing?" I said, "Well, I don't treat this as work. I just enjoy it so much." And he said, "Well, why don't we just go the next step?" And so, you know, what I didn't realize was I was being mentored.
Yes.
And so I was mentored by a general manager, and some that might watch this podcast would remember a fellow by the name of Nigel Harper. And he was a fabulous GM, and he was only young at the time, but he mentored me, and he said, "Why don't we get you doing some nights?" And so I did night audit, and then
Mm.
I did reservations, and I did a whole. I even did accounts, and so I then came back to Sydney and started, and I actually transferred back. He organised that I got to transfer back to Sydney. Do you know what? I didn't even know there was hotels in Sydney. Are there hotels in Sydney? He said, "Of course there is." I said, "Oh, okay." So I transferred back to Sydney. The company at the time was Southern Pacific Hotel Corporation, and they were the biggest hotel company in Australia
Right.
and New Zealand at that
Mm.
time. So I didn't even know I'd fallen into that to the right company, and so,
Mm.
but it was it was definitely a culture shock to go from beautiful Queenstown, New Zealand, and then I started as duty manager at the Macleay Street Travelodge, King's Cross.
Oh, oh, I know that one.
And so, yeah, that was quite a culture shock, I have to
Well,
say.
that was a baptism of fire. Now, for those that don't know where Potts Point King's Cross is, that is our our overseas listeners. It is the place for Sydney of highlights of women on the streets, lots of interesting characters, but a very eclectic group of people and part of society, which is made up with the fabric. And if you've ever seen, and this is a side note, any photos of Sydney, Australia, apart from the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House, you may have well seen the iconic Coca-Cola sign. And
Correct.
that is the entrance to King's Cross, Potts Point, Elizabeth Bay, and that area. And that's that main street. And so that's where you were. Well, my goodness, you would have seen so many different, because it was also a place for a lot of dignitaries to go to, but pop, musical people, theatre,
Oh,
yes,
look, it was,
television,
as you say, it
movies,
was very
wasn't it?
eclectic. I actually got a different opinion of King's Cross because
Mm,
I only knew King's Cross, as most young men did in those days, was somewhere you went late at night
yes.
and and you partied up to the last minute that you could, and then you got in a taxi and went home.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas I actually found, working in our industry, in the hospitality, that there was actually places for us to go after work
Yeah.
where it was all hospitality people.
Mm,
Everyone was still sober, which was fantastic, and the views were spectacular. And you may even remember this one, but it was called the Aircrew Bar, and it was up above the Rex Hotel.
yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
Rex downstairs was a sleazy piano bar, but if you went to the top, it was a beautiful cocktail bar, and it was called the Aircrew Bar because a lot of aircrew used to drink there,
Right.
and so did hospitality people. And it
Yes.
was so there was a number of little nooks in
Mm.
Kings Cross like that that you didn't have to go to some of those more well-known sort of clubs and
Establishments.
establishments that were there. So yeah, so I got a different education in the cross, which was quite good, I thought.
I'm sure we're going to hear more of your journey as you go along, but I just love how you start off. Here I am, a diesel mechanic. I'm having a beer in a pub in New Zealand, and somebody goes, "Do you want to wash some dishes?" And you really think back to yourself. It's just that moment in time. You could have been in a different pub. You could have gone home. You could have cooked a meal. It could have been at the day after you'd left, whatever. But absolute perfect timing where somebody has seen, I think, the potential that you had in you and said, how about if you come and do this? And it may have been for their own selfish gain because they definitely needed a pot washer, but it was to give you that opportunity. And wow, I see that as such an important part of leadership, isn't it, Michael?
Oh,
Sometimes you
absolutely.
just see that in somebody and just go for it. So, I just love that story.
And I was going to say, and interestingly, so then again, the Macleay Street Travelodge was going to be converted into apartments, and so I was transferred then to North Sydney as assistant food and beverage manager.
Right.
Now, I had experience working in the bar, I've had experience working in the restaurant,
Mm.
so they said, "Well, why don't you go and do assistant food and beverage?" And so um, away I went, and before I knew it. I think it was only 12 months later, I was then food and beverage manager of what was old Sydney Park Royal down in the
Right.
Rock.
Right.
And so I was a young 25-year-old food and beverage manager. And I was there thinking, wow. And again, a wonderful mentor, and a lot of industry people will remember, retired now, but a wonderful man and a great, absolute innovator of our industry, David Sargent, and he was the creator of QT,
Oh,
in actual fact. But
yeah.
so David said, if there's a job that you'd like to do, anything you'd like to do, and I could make it happen, what would you like to do?
Mm.
And I said, my experience in the kitchen was minimal. It was 6 months as a kitchen hand. I would really like to learn kitchen management because I feel as a food and beverage manager, you've got to have that knowledge.
Yes.
He said, leave it with me. I'll make it happen. And next thing you know, a week later, I was a trainee chef at the Sydney Boulevard, which was our flagship hotel.
Yes.
We had fine dining,
Yes.
bistro, ballroom for 500, and we had 55 chefs in the kitchen
Mm.
because everything came in as produce
Yeah.
and then went out as it was served. So there
Mm.
was no buying in of anything made. You
Right.
made it there, and we had butchery, we had 24-hour pastry section.
Mm.
It was fantastic, and I have to say, it was probably one of the most educated because if you go into a kitchen with the passion I had that I wanted to learn, I
Mm.
was allowed to actually do my own training program with the executive chef, John
Right.
Thurgood, who was a wonderful man, and the food and beverage manager. And we sat down and we did this really good training program for me. So I was exposed all around all the different kitchens, all the different aspects. Um, and it was just fantastic. So I did that for 6 months. And then next thing I was transferred to go and open as assistant food and beverage manager at the new Park Royal at Parramatta, which
Wow.
had all of those things as well. So
Yes.
it was a real, it was just a game changer for me. So I was really enjoying my career, but I was also being really trained and assisted through the process and really getting the experience that I needed.
Mm.
And funnily enough, I was then transferred from Parramatta to Auckland as
Right.
food and beverage manager at Auckland City Travelodge. And then I was transferred back to Sydney Boulevard as food and beverage manager. And it was amazing because none of the staff knew who I was or where I was.
Right. Right.
And I'm saying, wasn't this trainee chef guy?
A
Yeah,
full
exactly.
circle moment.
Director of food and beverage.
It was a bit like Undercover Boss. I know I started my career in hotels at the Menzies Hotel in
Ah,
Sydney as
yes,
a
a
functions
wonderful hotel.
coordinator.
Yes,
Yeah, back in when did I first start there? It must have been 1985. And you're right, just the kitchen alone and all the chefs. It's an absolutely amazing industry, and how much it's changed with automation and
correct.
as you said, produce coming in, but it's still that human connection. So let's move on to my next question, because I know we're going to hear so much more about your amazing career. You led Tourism Accommodation Australia, TAA, through one of the industry's most challenging periods, this COVID-19, which hit across the world. But here in Australia, we had different states. We had states locked down. Melbourne opened and closed 10 times. Queensland was, not far behind that, and same with New South Wales. But what leadership lessons or decisions during that time have stayed with you, Michael, that perhaps you've now taken into this new role with ReLove?
Well, interestingly, I think the big thing was when I started with Tourism Accommodation Australia, uh, it was it was very much about membership and it was about assisting the industry where you could, but you were almost looking for things to do.
Mm,
It wasn't coming naturally. And then all of a sudden we went into bushfires, and then the bushfires turned into, then we went to COVID. And
mm.
the interesting thing was that I think I was able to use my experience and my knowledge, understanding what the people were going through, and particularly the
Yes.
managers,
Mm,
but not only the managers, but also the owners of the hotels as well.
mm.
And so I was actually able to take that experience and take it to Canberra or take it into Martin Place
Mm.
and to Macquarie Street with our politicians that were there. They were just, everyone was reeling, saying, "Can you help us? Tell us
Yes.
what's going on. What can we do to help you
Mm,
guys?" And I
mm,
was able to say this, and they'd say, "Oh, we're thinking of doing this and this." I said, "No, that will not work because we need to actually ensure that we're looking after our people the best we can, and the
mm.
only way." And to be fair, through the support of the Australian Hotels Association, we were actually talking to government about JobKeeper before JobKeeper was announced. That
Wow, gosh.
we needed to find some way and method to pay people
Yes.
because otherwise they're all going to suffer terribly,
Mm,
and
mm.
particularly our industry. Because as you know, a lot of other industries kept going, but ours
Yes.
stopped, and
Stop.
they
Yeah.
shut us down. You know, you're
Mm,
dead. And I think one of the other things that happened was when we got about, I think we got 48 hours notice for quarantine hotels,
yes.
which was unbelievable. So we were actually watching, as we all did in those days, we watching the Prime Minister making his announcement at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon.
Mm,
And he said, "We've just come out of our meeting, and from 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, everyone flying back into Australia is going to have to go into quarantine."
mm.
Oh, you think we might have got a call on it first?
Yes.
So, so I was immediately then working in conjunction with ministers, with police, because originally they had the police. It was ridiculous when I think about it. You know, the police were coming into hotels at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, "We're going to be bringing people in here, I think, on Sunday. So where are you going to put them?"
Mm.
And the staff were going, "What? Like, we don't know what you're talking about."
No.
So we had to very quickly say, "Hey, let's let the police do policing, and
Yes.
let's work with government, and government work with our travel agent,
Mm.
to actually work out how we're going to get these people from airports to hotels
Yes.
and actually get a system going. And so we got heavily involved in all that. And look, it was 7 days a week because it definitely went through its teething processes, as you can imagine,
Yes.
as you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But we got there, and they
Oh, we
needed
did.
4,000 rooms,
Wow.
4,000 rooms on that Sunday morning.
Gosh, that's just amazing. But we were all flying by the seat of our pants. We'd never
Correct.
done it before.
Yeah,
And I think overall, I think we did the best we could possibly do. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it, Michael? But
absolutely.
just to be there on a Sunday morning with looking for 4,000 rooms in, across. So how many rooms do we roughly have in Sydney?
Oh, we got plenty. But
Right. Yeah, but
what
even
the
4,000, just to find 4,000, but it's just getting the staff in, getting the rooms ready.
well,
It's not they're
exactly.
just sitting there, are
Well,
they?
and a lot of the hotels had put staff off, so they
Yes,
had to
that's
bring them back
right.
on. They had to bring
Yes.
them back on. So
Mm,
and the police had actually put a circle around the CBD. So
mm.
on the Friday reached out to all the hotels in Sydney, and they'd all come. Some had said yes, we want to participate. Some said no, we don't want anything to do with it.
Yes, yeah.
Um, and so, but the police actually put a circle around the CBD and said that's where we can control. We're not going to try and control
No,
the whole
no.
city. We
Mm.
can control the middle. So that's where we worked with, and look, like I said, we got there, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I think we did a very good job, and I think each state and territory had their own responsibility. Did you know every state and territory had different procedures, different policies? I think, I'm probably a bias, but I think New South Wales did extremely well.
Yeah.
But I think across the board we did well. And look, we were sharing our experiences with Canada and with
Yes.
with overseas because they were there saying we're not doing quarantine. We believe you're doing it well. How are you doing it? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And
Um,
I think that's where we do share the knowledge and the hospitality and hotel, industry in itself is all about that sharing. And it's all
yeah,
about that connecting. It's not keeping it within ourselves. It's going, let's be the conduit to help others. Now, you played, that really that also that pivotal role in uniting TAA and Accommodation Association of Australia, two major big associations. And I'm sure there were lots of late night boardroom discussions going on as well. But what was that most rewarding part of that amalgamation process? And what challenges surprised you along the way?
well, I think just to go back one step, I think it was COVID that actually drove it
Mm,
because don't waste a good pandemic
yes.
when you've got and see both associations were pretty much following each other around.
Mm,
Saying, hey, what if we just get together and work together?
yes.
And so the actual heads of both industries, um, the presidents and the CEOs of both industries said, right, let's put it together. So two CEOs, you work closely together, which we did, and I think that worked really, really well.
Mm,
And I think we'd already built some relationships, and
yes.
so that was and that was myself working alongside Dean Long, and then Dean left, and then Richard Munro, and we worked just very closely together. And I think the more we did together, the more the industry actually thought, isn't it great the guys are working together,
Yes.
not competing
Yes.
against each other?
Mm,
And so then it made sense that maybe as we got further down the track, that maybe just one person run it. And lo and behold, that was something that I got asked to do. And
mm,
so next thing I was running the two associations, which was quite interesting. So
mm,
it meant that allowed me to see, okay, so we do it that way, they do it that way. How do we do it? What's the best way? And so I could actually pick from both sides.
mm.
They do that better than we do that. We do that better than and you could sort of pick both
Yes.
apart.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when we ended up going to, I think one of the most rewarding things was we had to get a vote from the Accommodation Association members, and we got 92% said yes.
Wow. That's unheard of. That's
Um,
fantastic.
it was just unbelievable. So what it said to us was exactly that the industry was happy with where we were going and what we were doing,
Mm,
and really actually encouraged it. Because could you imagine if it was 55-45? You
yes.
know you're going to be on a losing. You
Yes.
just
Just
it's
struggle.
not going to be enough.
Mm,
So I think that was extremely rewarding, and we were able to. And the other interesting thing was that when I was going into government and telling government, they were saying, "Fantastic! because we've been dealing with two industries for so
Yes.
long, and
Yes.
it's a total double up.
Mm.
So, um, look, it's a couple of years down the track now. I have to say, it's operating extremely well. James Goodwin's the new CEO of Accommodation Australia. He's got a wonderful board with David Mansfield as chair and the new board. And look, it's ticked every box,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and I have to say the industry is the winner. So,
Mm.
and can I tell you, I sat in a boardroom in 2008 talking about amalgamating the two. So
Right.
that's how many years we had. So we had tried on a number of occasions and
Yes.
failed and
Yes. Yes.
failed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it was so rewarding to actually see it happen
Mm.
and see the benefits. I think that the hotel industry is really enjoying from it.
Yeah, and we'll continue. And sometimes it just takes the right people in the right place at the right time. And in 2008, it would probably started that conversation, but just being there, and I think you rightly said yourself and the other chap just worked so beautifully together, and that's what everybody would have been holding their breath for, wouldn't they? Are these two going to be able to work together, or are they going to be two dominant CEOs that are wanting to get not so much one up on each other, but their ideas put forward? So you really showed the team and the board and everybody else and all those that have come after you in how to be respectful of each other, but you're there for that same cause, which is
Absolutely.
wonderful. And as you said, look, and they still continue on today. Now, you often talk about resilience and adaptability. Talk about your own journey, but particularly in the hospitality industry, not just through times like we had with COVID, but all the time. That goes up, it goes down. We have different tourism and comes about, but from your time as from GM to CEO roles, even the pot scrubber role, what shifts have you noticed in how teams operate and lead today? Because we're looking at a workforce now of four generations going from our baby boomers who are just about retiring if they wish to, down to our Gen Zs, and certainly not far off our alphas. So, for many of them, they'll be 15, and there are some roles that they're already playing in the hotel industry. So where do you, yeah, how do you see the teams and how they operate today? Is it any different to what you did?
Oh, I think there's been a couple of major changes over the years. I think one, our youth are certainly a lot more savvy today
Mm.
than in some regards. I think we had stronger hospitality skills, but not necessarily some of the acumen that the youth
Mm.
have got. And the youth have got all the acumen. They just
Yeah.
need to increase the hospitality skills. And I think, to be fair, we do it on a lot less than what we had. So they're under a lot more pressure, I think, than what we were.
Mm.
The industry was very much about we were assessed on our guest feedback. In other
Yes.
words, if the guest was happy, our industry, but our companies we work for, they were happy to know that our guests were happy and they could continue then to grow. Of
Yes.
course, they had the reputation of running good hospitality,
Mm.
and then your capital values of your properties went up and but today, with today's industry, you've got individual owners, you've got REITs that are owners, you've got, it's a whole different ownership. So
Yes.
it's as much about business as it is about hospitality.
Mm.
And I think that's probably been where we've come to today. But the interesting thing is we have matured so much through that
Mm.
now we are seen as a great industry to invest in. And
Yes.
so people and exactly that. The superannuation companies and all the rest are happy to buy hotels now because they have a lot of faith in the returns that we can achieve.
Yes. Yeah.
And interestingly, part of and I'm probably going to roll into something here, but part of that is, we have our depreciation. We all depreciate everything every 7 years. We depreciate. Well, once you've had furniture for 7 years, then
Mm.
you've depreciated full. The asset's fully depreciated. You may as well get new ones. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And
Yes.
so that you're keeping up with the Joneses, because as new hotels are coming in, you can't be seen to be going backwards. And
Mm.
so these these refits and refurbishments are happening, as we know, in the industry on a regular basis. And
Mm.
it was about 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, that two lovely people in Ben Stammers and Ren Fernando, great friends, were asked by someone, could they find some furniture for people in need that needed it? And it was like a couple of families. And they said,
Yes.
surely that's not too hard. We must be able to.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they reached out. Not only did they get some furniture, they got a lot of furniture. They thought, well, I'm going to put all this in the garage now. And the garage became a warehouse. And next thing, your investment banker and your architect both decided, let's let our careers go, and let's really,
Wow.
so it went from being something as a bit of an idea that became, something that it's really important. And then
Yes.
when they actually realized the size of the need,
Mm-mm.
and if you look at the last financial year, ReLove furnished 784 homes,
Wow. Whew,
which
that's
included
a,
which included 1,200 people, 1,200 children,
yeah.
and that was just in the Greater Sydney region.
Mm.
So, there's and at the moment we're doing 25 clients a week.
Right.
So it will be 1,000. So
Yes.
it's forever growing.
Mm.
And I think the thing, and what I found was, I heard about it just prior to retiring. I
Mm.
was I was retiring in the August, and it was in the June that we were invited to the ReLove warehouse. And it was at that time that we went, wow, this is fantastic.
Mm.
We want to be involved. And that was
Yes.
Accommodation Australia. We said, we
Right.
want to be involved.
Mm.
So let's partner with ReLove. And then when I finished, I I thought, well, there's a good opportunity here maybe that I can help. But
Mm.
but I was going to help to be a volunteer.
Mm.
So I was going to go and volunteer, and I've got a very good friend who volunteers with them, and she said, you should come along, come and be a volunteer. So
Mm.
I went along and said, the guys, good to see you again. I'm wondering if I can be a volunteer. And they said, well, yes, but we don't really want you working in the warehouse. Do you think you'd be an ambassador for us and actually work with your connections and
Yeah.
contacts?
Yeah.
Because we're forever in need of furniture. And
Mm.
so I said, look, I'd love to do that. And so I put a day a week aside, and I talked to industry, and I talked to people. And of course, and I know you can't stop people ringing you.
No.
And I just got a call prior to this podcast from Sealy, and they're delivering beds to the Hyatt Regency on Monday, and I'm going to be in there, and because we audit before we say yes, we'll take these, because if I wouldn't sleep on it and you wouldn't sleep on it, Michelle, don't expect someone else to sleep on
Yes. Yeah.
it.
I
And
love that.
and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so and so if a mattress has, maybe it's lost its its bounce, or
A
it's
spring is a springing
yeah,
sprung.
correct. So, but that can happen. That can
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
Then to me that needs to go for recycling. But if
Yes.
it's still in good condition and it's at a use by date from a depreciation, but and I know there's still plenty of wear.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we'll say yes, yes, no, yes, yes, no, and so those that we say no go off for recycling. Those we say yes go to our store, our warehouse and sales out at Alexandria. And lo and behold, if you can imagine, if you've got 25 clients a week, uh,
Mm.
that's normally 25 double queen beds you need,
Yeah.
and then as many single beds as kids are involved. So
Yes.
it's a really ongoing process, and why it's critical that we keep pushing that message out, because
Mm.
there's nothing worse when you hear someone's done a refit, didn't know about you,
Yes.
and it went to landfill.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I think that's the bonus for the hotels. They know they're helping social enterprise
Mm.
and people in need, and of course, a big percentage of the people we are helping are domestic violence,
Mm.
homeless people. So they leave with nothing.
Mm.
They go into refuge, and there's many charities involved, because if you think of the size of
Yes.
Sydney,
Mm.
we've got about 70 or 80 charities that we support,
Mm.
and that caseworker will then bring their client to us. They're registered for social housing. They'll bring the client to us. There's no questions asked. Those people are then, we assess what their needs are. We do the betting, and then we take them out into the what we call the showroom of the warehouse, and they actually pick what they like, and so
Oh,
it's
wow.
fantastic. And
Yeah.
while if they've got kids there, we've got volunteers that make sure the kids are happy playing with toys.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just it's just a it's a feel good place. It's somewhere
Yes.
and so we have 12 employees, but we have 70 volunteers.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it's just something that I just think is such a good thing and
Mm.
great to be part of. And so and it keeps me connected to the industry that I
Yeah,
love.
and that's what I was going to say. It's keeping you with a connection, but once again, it was just that serendipity moment where somebody invited you along to that day before you retired, and it all just fell into place. And that's where it is, with our industry. It's those conversations, and it is the people who we know, who are we connected to, and it's not about using them. It's about connecting them, and how can they realize. And I'm sure when you shared your story about what ReLove did, there'd be CEOs going, this is fantastic, because nobody wants to put it into landfill. Nobody
No,
wants to see it just wasted. And if they've been doing this for decades, probably for over 100 years, and you sort of think all that waste, now it can be repurposed and reloved by people who really need it. But I think having you there as an ambassador, Michael, is just that icing on the cake, because you already know those people. And as you rightly said, it's getting that word out, because sometimes you think everybody must know about this. I've been talking about it till I'm blue in the face. And then you'll meet somebody who'll go, oh, I never heard of it. And you think,
and
where have you been?
I was going to say next month we're at No Vacancy, and we've been able to partner with No Vacancy. So we'll be speaking at No Vacancy. We've got a
So what's
booth.
no vacancy?
No Vacancy is a very big hospitality and hotel accommodation exhibition and conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the ICC on the 17th and 18th of September.
Mm-hmm.
And it's huge, yeah, so
Yeah.
huge for our industry. And so
Mm.
we'll be speaking, and we'll have volunteers in our booth. And again, and 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 without again, I had the same question asked by Ben and Ren. What's
Mm.
no vacancy, Michael?
Yes.
Guys, we've got to be there. We've got
Yes,
to
you
be there.
have to be. Yeah.
And
Because that's
so
that's
I've got them both speak. I've got them both on stage speaking. So that'll be great. You know what I mean?
perfect. And I think that's the thing, we can get so involved with our industry, and we have got all these little acronyms, all these things that we know in conferences. But yeah, just like I've been in this industry for all these years, and I thought I haven't heard of what no vacancy is. And you just think, wow, once again, just getting in front of people that are going to make this change. Because is it more than just the betting, or is that the predominant part about
No,
it?
no, no. It's more than betting.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
actually so when someone comes in, if I can very quickly. So like I said, we'll sit with them and say, right, you need a double bed and two single beds. That's great. We'll tick that off. So that's a given. You'll just get those. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because they'll come in the truck. And now you're on ground floor or you're on level three. Because if you're on ground floor, then maybe you can have a little bit heavier furniture than if you're on level
Right.
three.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So okay, so let's now that we know what your needs are, and they're coming with nothing. So then we'll go out and say, right, so here's some sofas up here. Now we may have had, for example, TFE, a wonderful organisation, and so they'll refurbish the Adena, which are all apartments. So next,
Yes.
we'll have 40 sofas,
Gosh.
and so, but in the showroom area, there's one,
Mm.
but it's got to, and someone will go, oh, I like that. Okay, that's fine. And we go bleep, and it goes into the system that they want that one, and
Mm.
they'll say that dining table, those chairs. We say you want a four-person starter pack for your kitchen. So there's
Yes.
plate, crockery, cutlery, toaster, kettle, etc., etc. And then once they've finished picking the furniture they require, they'll then go into the soft furnishings, get cushions for and pillows, sheets, doonas, the whole 9 yards.
Mm.
Even to the extent, I'm looking at yours, but a lamp behind you, a
Mm.
print on the wall, maybe a nice fruit bowl with colours, and because they're going to go into a two-bedroom social housing apartment that will, once we've been there, the next day becomes a
Mm.
home. And it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
only and our guys go, the ReLove truck will go the next day to that residence, and volunteers will go with them, make the beds, put the cutlery in
Wow.
the drawers,
Gosh.
because people are under terrible trauma. So if
Yes.
you take all
Yes.
that away, now
Mm.
all of a sudden they can start thinking about schools for children,
Mm.
working again, or what I mean, whatever those things
Yeah,
may be.
just breathing, I think, for many
Yeah,
of them.
yeah,
Just being and knowing that even people that they don't know are there willing to help them, without even being asked. It's just being there. And I think it's amazing how you brought the industry building an awareness of
yeah.
that because they just would not have known. Now, there's a comment here that you'd said about and I read it in your bio. It was about the hotel's ESG program. Once again, it's an acronym. You probably think, oh, Michelle, you should know. But what does that ESG program? What does that
Envir-
actually?
Environmental social governance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the hotels have a requirement to achieve certain goals within
Mm,
that, and so we fit that. In other words, the furniture is being reused.
yes.
So it's socially, it works socially, it
Mm,
works environmentally, and from a governance perspective, the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So it ticks all those boxes for them as
yes.
well.
Yeah.
So
Which is what they
um,
need to do.
it's correct,
Yes.
and they
Yeah.
need to do it today.
Mm.
So we actually fulfil that requirement as well. So it's like I said, it's just a no-brainer. That's how I
Yes,
look at
yeah,
it.
it is. It is. I mean, it's a no-brainer that people just didn't think of until you connected the pieces and
Correct.
you being that conduit. And I know you're so passionate about it. And there you were, ready for retirement, and you've just stepped into this other role. I know when we were talking, you were talking about going. You've been on a particular cruise, and I'm thinking, oh, that sounds lovely in Europe. And I'm wondering, when you ever get this time to do this now, Michael, because you just
Well, no. So we talked about the no vacancy conference. Well, that's locked in. We do. We also partner with AHICE, which is a conference that's a big accommodation conference as well. I think it was 1,400 attendees this year, and that was in Adelaide. And I
right.
was able to get Ben and Ren on stage there as well, which was
Mm,
fantastic. We're so you sort of lock in those big dates, and then no word of a lie, I was in Broome because I did a Kimberley's trip. Your phone still goes, oh, hi, Michael, we've got some beds coming up. And then you go, yep, that's fine. I'll connect you to these beds. So you can still go on
I
holiday,
was going to say you still
but,
yes.
but, that, but you don't turn your phone off, do you?
No.
You don't turn, and I
You're,
have to,
you're, you're always connected, and we can see the benefits, and those people that don't even know who you are, but you're impacting their lives so much every day, and all purely from just that one conversation and how that's growing. I just want to bring it back to about our beautiful hospitality and tourism, industry. It's all about creating those memories and those experiences. And as I said, we've got four generations in the workplace. We've got six generations that were, that are our guests, that they come through our door with all their different needs and expectations. But looking back, is there that particular moment, perhaps as a GM or during this advocacy period, is that reminded you just how powerful this industry can be?
I certainly think through COVID, but coming out of COVID. So
Mm.
when we came out of COVID, it was phenomenal. Everybody wanted to get back and stay in hotels.
Yes.
Everybody had missed
Mm.
that, being able to be spoiled. Do you know what I mean? It was
Yes.
quite incredible. And so our industry went from down here to here. We couldn't even control it. We had to sort of hold it back while we got more staff.
Staff.
Yeah, I know we really struggled staff-wise, but it was quite amazing. And I think the whole hospitality industry, including hotels, but also the restaurants, cafes,
Mm.
certainly the hotels, bars, everyone wanted to go back and we are
Yeah.
social beings. We are
Mm.
social beings, and so
Yes.
I think from that perspective, it was. I used to get so much enjoyment calling the hotels and saying, "How are we going?" Oh yeah, we picked right up there. Oh,
Yes.
fantastic! That's
Yeah.
such good news. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because yeah, everyone had done it so tough for so long, and to see it pick up and pick up and pick up,
Mm.
it's really really good. And I think from that perspective, and I think we, as an industry, we have more of an appreciation of the guests and more of an appreciation of the what we are doing. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Because we
Yes.
because we have these memories. They'll
Mm.
go away soon, but we have memories of when it stopped. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And
Yes.
so I think from that perspective, we're very you know what I mean, encouraged by an industry and how resilient it has bounced back.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
only thing I would say is, and having, as you say, worked for many decades through the industry, is we do have, it keeps coming.
Yes.
I'm sad to say, but something is brewing. We don't
Yes.
know what,
Yes.
but it is brewing that
Mm.
we will get knocked again.
Yes. Yes.
And we need to be ready.
Mm.
And we've certainly shown the resilience we could with COVID, which would be the worst that I've seen.
Mm.
But I still remember September 11. I still remember
Yes.
SARS. I still
Mm.
remember, you know, the Asia crisis
Mm.
with the, so you know we've always had you know something that's
Yes.
always
Yes.
come and knocked us, and so I
But we
think
bounce back up because we're
when we do
resilient.
bounce, and we do.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think we're getting better at that as
Mm.
well because we do
Mm.
understand our industry and understand what what we can pull back, where we can't pull back, and
Mm.
I don't. I'd like to think we never go back into a full shutdown again, but you know what I mean.
No, no. I think it's more of what we know we've got plans in place now. We've
Yeah,
got
yeah.
a little bit of a map, but you know, it's what you've done afterwards in growing this connection and how much that's going to reverberate. Because you were saying at the moment, ReLove is mostly just around the Sydney CBD and a few outer. But are there opportunities for this to grow throughout New South Wales, throughout all the states, and then
Well,
even globally?
certainly the model I think is a really good model,
Mm.
and it's been fine tuned, and I think there will come a point we'll say we're ready now, and we will start because we are getting you know people from Melbourne, people from Brisbane saying
Mm.
you know we need you in Brisbane, we need you in
Yes,
Melbourne,
yes.
and so there's a real need.
Mm,
Um, and we're just looking at how's what's going to be the best place to move next, and then go again and
mm.
use the model because the model is a great model and it is
Yes, yeah.
working. And and I think it also shows that you can help people with and give them back their dignity and give them the
Yes.
respect they deserve,
Mm,
and to ensure that they can actually move on and just walk out the door and say all the very best. And do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I think it's great.
it
So
is. It
I think we can go further. I won't disclose because I haven't talked to the guys, but I've had a phone call this week internationally to say I've just been speaking to someone who said you were passionately talking to them about Rita, and do you think they would allow me to come and see and talk to the co-founders because we'd love to do it in our country? And I'm
yes, yeah. And
wow,
I yeah.
I can't see why we wouldn't want to share something that's going to help others.
Yeah,
Why would we?
why would we? We, you
Why
know,
would we not?
it's it's becoming a movement. It started off as just an idea and something that's helped those in the, you know, the smaller, that broader community in the Sydney area. But it's a global movement. And but that's what the hospitality industry is all about. Exactly right at the very start when you said you're an Australian, you go to New Zealand, and then it starts there, and then they bring you back to Australia, and you go back to New Zealand. It's global. We can travel anywhere in our industry. And I think it's what we're seeing is this connection between, you know, we lost so many people, and it's always been that transient industry, and we'll always have that base of employees that come and go. But it's
And
actually
we need them. We
we
need
do, we
them.
do.
Yeah.
I've always said, Michael, I'd rather get 2 or 3 good years out of a uni student than some
Yeah.
old person who's sucking oxygen who doesn't need to, you know,
Yeah.
shocking
Totally
worker.
agree.
Um,
Totally. Don't get
but
it started now.
but it's now you've lost my train of thought. It's thinking about this is an industry that you can have an amazing career. And I just think this is just beautiful. And you said off, here I am, I'm a certified diesel mechanic. And now you're helping people through your connections as an ambassador for Breedlove through the Australian accommodation. I mean, it's just, it's amazing the journey that you've been on. And it's really, really inspiring. What I would love you to share, because I'll certainly put links in the podcast show notes, but for those listening, whether they're hotel managers, business owners, frontline team members, because as you said, there's a lot of volunteers that ReLove have, how can they get involved with ReLove or help spread the word about the incredible work you're doing? Because, I'm very much connected with the registered club industry and, pubs and hotels and clubs. So even they go through this refurbishment. In the old days,
Absolutely.
refurb every 15, 7 years, 6 years. And now if you're not changing the cushions literally weekly, Michael, people go, oh, it's a bit boring.
Yeah.
So they also could move. So how can they go about that?
Well, I think certainly we do work with the club industry. We are working with the
Good.
club industry, which is
Excellent.
great. And there's I think from a perspective, as you say, it's not difficult these days to Google ReLove and you'll get ReLove. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And we have people as well that say, "Oh, look, I've just moved into a new apartment and I've come out of a home and
Mm.
I've got all this furniture that I really I don't want to, it's too good to throw away." And so
Yes.
when the people turn up and just deliver to us, wonderful furniture which gets reused, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. So the thing where we can get caught somewhat as a negative is someone will ring and say, "Oh, look, I've got this furniture. If you can come and get it today, you can have it." Well, we don't have those sorts of
Yes.
resources.
Yes.
Our resources are used to deliver to those
Yes.
in need.
Mm.
So from that perspective, but certainly, we're in Alexandria. So for those people in Sydney, anyone that is thinking, I just don't want this to go, and
Mm.
we've all seen it. We
Yes.
we see
Yes.
those trucks come past,
Mm.
council trucks, and munch
Mm.
perfectly good furniture. And
Yes. Yeah.
it just saddens me to see it, but
Mm.
that's what happens to it, as we know. So
Yeah.
if you can get it to ReLove, particularly, but I always say, if you wouldn't sit on it, sleep on it, don't expect someone else to.
Yeah, you
So,
have to be respectful of it. It's got
yeah,
to
yeah,
be clean.
correct.
It's got to be that you be, as you said, you'd be happy to sleep on it or sit on it or dine from it,
Yeah, yeah,
which is really key because it's going to people that's helping, but it's also helping our, sustainability. Like it's
correct,
just
correct.
landfill. We've got no more spaces for holes to be dug, and so why not put it to a really good purpose? I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know we could possibly talk all afternoon about both our journeys in the industry, and I could have a ring in podcast where people will be ringing because I know they'd love to ask lots of questions of you because I'm sure many of the listeners perhaps have even worked with you, Michael, over the years, or perhaps even the people that you've mentioned as mentors. And I think just briefly, just for that moment, you said that real key word. Let me, I haven't done that before. We'll teach you. Let me do this. We'll teach you. And you didn't realize that was mentoring,
Yeah,
but it was. And how key mentoring is. It doesn't have to be a formal set, but there it was informal. But that's guided you through this industry for all these decades. It's pretty,
and
pretty
and and I think that's you come back to when you never know when you're going to draw on it, but
yeah.
hey, I know how you're feeling because I've done what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
I understand. I
Mm,
understand,
that's
and
right. Yeah.
and
And
that's
when we understand is when we connect.
correct. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
perfect.
absolutely.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Michael. It's been wonderful having this conversation with
Yeah,
you.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, Michelle, as well, and really appreciate the efforts you do as well. In as a huge supporter for the industry, which is fantastic. So
Oh, thank you.
congratulations to you too.
Appreciate it.